But first, and again a warning, I'm going to show very disturbing clips, and this time including of Australians also acting like monsters. Australia's Day of Shame. I'm not just talking about the disgusting anti-Jewish protest last night at the Sydney Opera House. I mean, Jew hatred in front of the most iconic building in this country and beamed to the world as the image of Australia today. I mean, shameful. I mean, they said after the Holocaust, right? Never again. But here in Australia, we're seeing, yes again, that deadly hatred of Jews imported by our reckless immigration program and now fanned by the left. And even more frightening is that this poison is spreading to the Greens especially, to Labor, even to the media. You take that protest yesterday, actually backed by the New South Wales Greens. I mean, just the fact that this protest even occurred is already sick. I'm about to play distressing footage to show you how sick. These protesters yesterday, and some in Melbourne today, there's another protest tonight in Melbourne, had seen Islamist terrorists invade Israel, murder 900 people, including entire families like this one, murder children, rape women, and take more than 100 people hostage, many of them women, and some even children. These protests last night and the ones in Melbourne tonight, they saw all that and they've celebrated. They've celebrated and attacked Israel, which is the victim here. So really that tells you these people are almost certainly anti-Jewish as well. Let's cut the crap here, because these people clearly do not value Jewish lives that they would the lives of others. Clearly not. And if you hear some people still using that old fraud of an excuse, oh no, we're not anti-Jewish, this is anti-Zionism. It's just anti-Israel. Again, I'm going to have to play some distressing footage to put the lie to that. Dozens of these protesters at that Sydney rally chanted, "F the Jews." In fact, they also chanted much worse, "Gas the Jews," like the Nazis did. Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? And I ask again, the Islamic leaders who failed to condemn what Hamas did to those Israeli civilians on the weekend, where are they now denouncing this? Silent. And this is a huge issue. But another of the many sick things about this protest was that the New South Wales police actually escorted these Jew haters to the Opera House, let them disrupt the tribute there to Israel's victims, disrupt the lighting of the sails of the Opera House in the colours of Israel, yet meanwhile warn Jews to stay away from this tribute to their own people, even to their own relatives in some cases. And the only arrest on this night where people were throwing flares, chanting "Gas the Jews" and celebrating mass murder, the only arrest was of a Jewish man carrying an Israeli flag.
A person was removed from the town hall rally who was carrying a flag for his safety. He was arrested to prevent a breach of the peace for his safety. He was removed and released.
Now, the police and the New South Wales Labor government let this happen is an utter disgrace. It suggests a deference to haters of Israel and a lack of concern for Jews. If I'm wrong in that, let them show now what they can do. But it also represents a surrender to the violent at the cost of the peaceful. The mobs rule the streets, the lawful must hide at home.
I spoke with members of the Jewish community right throughout the day yesterday, and as I'd said earlier, indicated to them that people attending these positions can put themselves at significant risk. They made a decision not to attend, which I am supportive of and which I shows good sense.
Such was the official lack of concern the New South Wales Attorney-General this morning hadn't even bothered to acquaint himself with what went on. And his best advice to Jews was also, well, stay at home.
Across what happened last night at the Opera House, though?
Not really, no. I worked late last night, so I'm not really across that, no.
OK, so we had a protest last night outside the Opera House. The Israeli flag was burned and Jewish Sydney-siders were told to stay at home. This is despite your Premier Chris Minns declaring that we were going to light up the sales of the Opera House to show solidarity with Jewish people living here in Australia?
Well, I think everybody needs to just calm down and, as you say, do stay at home.
At least the Premier later seemed deeply embarrassed.
I don't think that protest should have gone ahead. I don't think the organisers should have called it. I think that it rips apart, in small measures, potentially larger measures, the cohesion that we have in New South Wales. If there were acts that meet the threshold for charging in relation to racial vilification or incitement of hatred or incitement of violence, then action will be taken. And I understand the New South Wales Police have formed a task force for that purpose.
Nice words, but such is the rot that the New South Wales Government's Parliamentary Secretary for Multiculturalism even had a son at this protest. This guy chanting support for Palestine after the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. But, you know, I think we have to get some perspective here, because a lot of people, it's very easy to turn this into an attack on the New South Wales Labor government. That's where a lot of people have gone, sheer incompetence, insensitivity, stupidity, all that. I got that. But that is not our biggest problem here. For a start, I want to know how we had an immigration program that's left us now trying to deal with people bringing their ancient hatreds and biases to our streets, making them unsafe, calling for the gassing of Jews, scaring police so much that they warn Jews to stay away and not cause trouble that the police can't actually deal with. And then there's the politicians who are feeding these hatreds or looking for votes from Muslim communities by going hard on Israel. And this is how that Jew-hating poison spreads, infecting even our politics. And for example, you check out Mehreen Faruqi, Deputy Leader of the Federal Greens, Deputy Leader, reacted to the slaughter, rape and kidnapping of Jews. This is an older photo of her, support for Palestine. But this week she attacked the plan to light up Parliament House in the colours of Israel's flag. She complained one colonial government supporting another. What a disgrace. But let's look at Labor as well. It's tried for years, since the Gillard days, even before, to get the Muslim vote, which is up to a quarter of the voters in some Labor seats and it's done that by insulting Israel. The Albanese government, for instance, reversed Australia's policy and said, no, we're not going to recognise any longer Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Labor's National Conference recently also said Australia should recognise Palestine as a nation, even though Gaza, where 2 million Palestinians live, is actually run by the Hamas terrorist group, which just ordered those killings and kidnappings in Israel. That's what recognising Palestine means, Hamas. Now, these are moves that have been pushed in particular by former Labor Foreign Minister Bob Carr, former New South Wales Premier as well, who this time tweeted, yes, Israel has a right to defend itself from attacks, yep, but Hamas has won a tactical success. Sure, it'll be very short-lived. It will draw disproportionately huge retaliation directed at civilians and indifferent to children. So there's a former Labor Foreign Minister saying, oh, tactical success for Hamas. But oh dear, it's going to draw a disproportionate response from those Israelis who are going to direct it at civilians, those Israelis who are indifferent to children. Not a word of criticism for Hamas, for itself having deliberately slaughtered children, raped and kidnapped Jewish women. Not a word. How disgusting. Again, it is like Jewish lives no longer have much value. And where were the federal ministers like Tony Burke? Your seat of Watson is almost 25% Muslim voters. Silent about the horror in Israel until today. And still today didn't damn yesterday's protest. And now under the sails of the Sydney Opera House, we hear gas the Jews as police stand by and arrest only a Jew who dares to protest. The world has now seen this shame too and heard only the barest minimum of criticism from this Labor government. Australia's shame and Australia's danger.